Burniston, the designer of Pop It Ups dies for Elizabeth Craft Designs. I am here in May 2014 with this month's Designer Challenge. Okay, the theme this month is the word fly. And I challenged the team. I also have a couple guest designers and just said interpret the word however you want to, whatever kind of way you want to take that theme and run with it. You're going to love what they created. So after you've watched the video, just make sure that you check out all of their creations. Now, I don't know where you are. You might actually be somewhere other than the Elizabeth Craft Designs blog. And if so, that's fine. Just find the link when you're done watching the video and head on over there. Now, if you're on YouTube, it's going to be in the little About section below the video itself, or if you're on Facebook, it's probably here in the description box above me. And in either of those places, you should find the link. When you head on over to the Elizabeth Craft Designs blog, you will also see pictures of the card I'm about to teach you. Now, I interpreted the theme, you may think, maybe a little literally, because the first die that I thought of when I made the theme fly was the butterfly pivot card. And then there is the butterfly accessory dies that kind of match that butterfly pivot card real well, and there is the butterfly embossing folder. So I've put all three on the board here. That's what I'm going to use in the video today for a technique that I think you're going to love, because I do, and it is for how to take the pivot cards and basically triple them. So this is going to be a fun technique for use with all of the pivot card designs, not just the butterfly. And if you'll stick with me till the end, I'll show you real quick how those other dies, the other pivot card dies, look when you use this technique. And in the meantime, we're going to make a card. Let's get started. Now, your first step with any of my dies is to use the die snips to snip them apart into their individual pieces. The butterfly pivot card and the butterfly accessory dies are no exception. And the file set can be very helpful. If you have any kind of sharp parts left, you can just kind of file those down. Okay, let's make a triple pivot card. Step one, you're going to want a little bit larger card for this technique, so I'm using a 6x6 card. So that's 12 inches by 6 inches, scored in the middle and folded in half. Now, to use a pivot card for a tripling effect, you leave your card folded. So I'm not going to open it up and line up the butterfly over the fold. I'm actually going to line up the second butterfly, so the right-hand butterfly, right up the middle of that butterfly, right over the fold of the card. And then that can go anywhere along that fold, so I could slide that up and down and decide where I want my triple butterfly to be. In my case, I wanted it a little bit higher in the card, giving me some room at the bottom to add a greeting. So now I'll just roll that through. These dies will fit in any of your major die cutting machines. Anything that can cut a wafer-thin die can cut an Elizabeth Craft Designs die. When that comes out, what it's done is basically mirror imaged itself on that fold line so that you end up with 3 butterflies. Folding it's pretty much like any pivot card. You're just folding the card in one direction and letting the butterflies pivot the other way. And you may notice here that my center butterfly is now sticking out of the card, and that's no good. So what I'll do then is I'll go inside the card and I'm going to reverse the folds for the center butterfly so that it basically kind of accordion folds down towards the inside of the card when the card is closed. And that way it is hidden by the card when the card is closed, but it will expand when the card is open. And that is all there is to it. How quick and easy was that? Okay, for some backing strips, I'm going to open the card up flat onto the back of the card and weave in a piece of washi tape and then just kind of get that positioned on the interior center fold and just give that a good squish. And see what happens is now that's inside the card, but it's behind the butterfly. And then it's still sticky on that other side. So what I want to do is then add a second piece of washi tape on the other side of the card, just perfectly over the top of the first one. And then I'll just trim that to fit the card. Now I had measured the distance from underneath the butterfly's wing out to the edge of the card. And then I just want to make sure that when I add my backing paper strip that I only use adhesive on the card itself and only where the paper will cover it. So up to the center of the butterfly. And then I just slide the paper behind the butterfly and press it down. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip that card over and I'm going to do the exact same process on the back side. Tape runner all over the card, stopping halfway through the butterfly, slide the paper up underneath the butterfly's wings and onto the back of the card. Now for this particular card, the bright yellow that was on the back side of that pattern paper wasn't going to work inside the card for the color scheme I was going for. So I went to another piece of pattern paper and die cut a pivot set and then just cut right up through the middle of both butterflies to make a little half set that could nest in and cover that yellow pattern paper inside the card. And then I just did it again for the other side. I first was introduced to the idea of using dryer sheets to coat the dies to make them eject easier by one of my team members, Summer Hill's painter. But I came across this other kind of cool use for the dryer sheets I was going to show you here. Okay, so when you've got an intricate die, after you've used it a few times, what happens is all the little paper remains in the die. So you get your little pretty piece out, and then you still have all that paper to poke out of the die. So you can use your Elizabeth Craft Designs tweezers and poke them individually. But something that I discovered is that dryer sheets work really great for ejecting your intricate dies. You take 2 dryer sheets and pile them up on top of each other. What you're looking for is something that's thick enough that the die isn't going to try and cut all the way through it. Then you're just going to take your die that's filled with little paper scraps and just roll it through your machine on top of those 2 dryer sheets. And what's going to happen is dryer sheet's just going to grab all the paper. So take a look at what happened. It grabbed every bit of that paper out of the die, and then look, the die is squeaky clean, ready for my next cut. Dryer sheets can also be used just to coat the die, an intricate die. And what will happen is it'll just make the paper start ejecting a little bit easier. So you don't have to do this in between every cut, but maybe every 20, whenever it really starts sticking, just roll your intricate die back through on a couple dryer sheets, and then the next time you use it, your paper will pop out much easier. When you're decorating that center butterfly, the one that's hanging in the air, you really want a light decoration and something that can go easily across the fold. And so I'm going to show you how I did this kind of cool glittered butterfly technique. Let's go back to that intricate die again. This one comes with the butterfly pivot card. And this time as I take the paper out, I'm going to go very slowly because I'd like to leave all of the little paper pieces in the die. Now I'm going to use an Elizabeth Craft Designs transfer sheet. So the idea is I press that down over the die and then use something to really press the transfer sheet over that paper so that all of the paper gets transferred to the transfer sheet in one shot. So now I have all these little pretty pieces that can be transferred over to a solid butterfly. I'm going to cut my solid butterfly out of double-sided adhesive. And then I'm going to peel up the liner. So now I've got a sticky butterfly on one side. And I'm going to take the transfer sheet. I can see right down through it to see exactly where I'm placing things. And I'm going to press all those paper pieces right down onto that double-sided adhesive. And then I'll just make sure I rub it in really, really well so that the paper is going to transfer to the double-sided adhesive. Now I'm not going to try and take the transfer sheet off yet. First I'm going to take the backing sheet off the other side of the double-sided adhesive. So now the whole back of that butterfly is sticky, and I can use that, and again I can see right through the transfer sheet, and I can use that to hold it while I press that butterfly in place over the center one inside my pop-up card. Now I can remove the transfer sheet, and now this is going to be a slow process. It isn't going to be something that I'm going to try and do very fast because of course that double-sided adhesive is really, really grabbing that transfer sheet. So I'm going to go very slowly, but I should be able to work that transfer sheet now off of the piece, leaving me with the butterfly. Now I still have a lot of sticky on that butterfly. All of the lines are still sticky from the double-sided adhesive everywhere around the little paper parts. So what I'm going to do is put some warm diamond microfine glitter all over the butterfly, and then I'm just going to polish it in really good with my finger. And then there's my finished glittered butterfly. It is very thin and very light, and that works great for the center butterfly. I designed the butterfly embossing folder to perfectly coordinate with both of the other butterfly dies, the pivot card and the accessory dies. So what I've done here is I've embossed a panel on some core cardstock so that I can sand it and reveal that core. And then the butterfly accessory die has 3 of the butterflies that will cut out those embossed butterflies, and then the smallest butterfly comes from the butterfly pivot card die. So between those 4 dies, you can actually cut all of the butterflies out of the embossing folder set. And the medium one's going to be a lace butterfly, so that's the only one where you kind of lose the emboss on it, but you gain some lace, so that's pretty cool. So what I did with all my embossed butterflies is I just layered them together, added some little butterfly bodies cut with that same accessory die, and just layered them all over the interior and the exterior of the card. And then my final part was just to make some bigger butterflies to decorate the number 1 and number 3. And those are just from the butterfly pivot card, the accessory pieces that come with the die. As promised, I'm going to show you how you can get some other fun triple pivot card looks using some of the other pivot card dies. With the heart die, you would just line up the folds right in the center of the second heart. It's going to do the same exact thing the butterfly did. You're just going to fold it so that the hearts pivot outwards. And that center heart will end up sticking outside your card. So just go ahead and open it up and give that center heart a little accordion fold. So just fold that in as you collapse the card. And now you'll have a little triple heart card. You can do the same exact thing with the Katie label pivot card. Just line up the fold of the card in the center of the second label. Roll that right through the machine. When it comes out, you'll have 3 labels. You're just going to fold it in the usual manner so that the outside sections of the labels go through the holes to the front and the back of the card. Close it. You're going to have that label sticking out of the card. Open it up, accordion fold the label, the center one, into the card, just like you did with the heart, just like we did with the butterfly. Then you'll end up with a triple Katie label. Now the house pivot card is not a symmetrical design. It has a house on one side and a fence on the other, which means you have 2 options. Option 1 is to line up the fold in the center of the house. That will end up with fence on the outside, house on the middle, fence on the outside. Your other choice is to line up the fold in the middle of the fence and roll it through. And then what you'll end up in that case is house on the outside, fence on the inside, house on the outside. Generally with the house pivot card, you might have the option to leave your fence or your house kind of poked in the outward position and still have it hidden. But of course you can always go in and do the same little accordion fold if you prefer to have that fence and or that house, whichever item you have on the inside of the card, collapsed inward just like the other one. So the house has got a few more options because it's not a symmetrical design. If you have enjoyed this tutorial, I hope that you will subscribe to my YouTube channel and like my Facebook page, Karen Burniston Designer. You can get more information on where to purchase all of the Pop-It Ups dies on ecraftdesigns.com and more pop-up ideas on my blog, karenburniston.com. Thanks for watching.